Hello and welcome to Saints Live. I'm Steve Forbes.
I'm Kenzie Benali.
And today we come to you live from St Mary's Stadium as Southampton travel up to the capital to take on Arsenal at the Emirates.
Yes, indeed. And what a stellar lineup we have for today's show. Former Saints captain Dean Hammond is back with us. And for the first time this season is Premier League reporter Paul Belveston joining us. Belvis, how are you? Did you miss us?
Absolutely, hugely.
That's what we like to hear.
Waving at you from pitch side occasionally, and but yeah, I'm ready to go.
Good. That's what we like to hear, isn't it? And Dean, lovely to see you as always.
Lovely to see you all. It's great to have Bells back, I must admit, and yeah, looking forward to the game, guys. Looking forward to the game.
Yeah, we all are. Now, we want to hear from you, the fans, as well during the show, so make sure to get your comments into us via social media. Now, the team news is coming up in around about 15 minutes' time, but before we get into that, we do have some pre-team news, team news to get through and to fill you in on. Alex McCarthy and Fraser Forster are both out injured, so we are expecting Willie Caballero to make his first start for Southampton after joining on an emergency deal. Oriol Romeu and Mohamed Salisu are both suspended after picking up their fifth yellow card of the campaign last weekend. Shea Adams is a bit of an injury doubt too. Stuart Armstrong, he's still unavailable, but Jan Bednarek is back in contention for the game today.
Well, quite a lot to unpack there. Certainly some enforced changes for Ralph. Belvis, what team selection do you think he'll go with this afternoon?
Well, it's tricky when you lose essentially the spine of the team with the goalkeeper out, centre back, centre midfielder, and a striker. So he has got some options. That's the good thing, isn't it? You know, if presumably it's going to be Willie Caballero coming into goal, straight into goal, having signed that emergency loan deal. You feel a bit for Harry Lewis, don't you, with him spending so much time as the third keeper. He must have had a sort of a burst of adrenaline when he thought, right, now's my time. I'm going to make my Premier League debut. But he's presumably going to be back on the bench again today. Three centre-backs to choose from. Lianco has done pretty well, hasn't he, in his first few appearances. Jack Stevens was on the bench against Brighton, and Jan Bednarek, we believe, is fit again. So two of those three. Diallo's the obvious one in midfield. And then surely Brozier gets a start up front. I'm not sure how many other changes there'll be. The fullbacks pretty much choose themselves these days, don't they? With Kyle Walker-Peters pretty much cementing that left side spot, and the wide men, the number 10s as Ralph calls them. Nathan Redmond is turning into an assist machine, and I'd like to see Nathan Teller get another go today.
Well, yeah, Dean, there will be some enforced changes for Ralph to make. So, how do you expect Saints to line up this afternoon?
Pretty much what Belvis just said there. I think the interesting selection will be the centre-half position. Would it be Jack Stevens or would it be Bednarek? I've got a feeling Bednarek will come back in. You know, he's not been out for long, really. So he'll still be up to speed from the games he's played previously this season. Diallo, I fully expect to come into the central midfield and partner James Ward-Prowse. The fullback area, like Belvis has said, the two players are playing particularly well. So I think it picks themselves. The wide players are two number 10s. Nathan Redmond, you know, very, very effective, creating chances, supplying goals, getting them as assists, which we'd like to see from him. And Nathan Teller, you know, he's come back in the team, brought a freshness to the team. He has that raw pace that he uses and works very hard for the team and starting to get some confidence again within his performances. So I'd like to see him back in the team. But you've also got Theo Walcott that can come back in against Arsenal, you know, his previous team, and seems to do well against them when he plays against them. And the two front men in Adam Armstrong and Brozier, I think, will partner each other. And I think that partnership can work as well. So I don't think there'll only be huge surprises. I think the manager has got options. I think the formation will stay the same. I don't think there'll be any surprises like we saw against Liverpool or a different system to try and surprise Arsenal. I think the manager will go the same because I touched on it in the game against Brighton. I thought the performance was very, very good. Now, unfortunate how the game ended in terms of the result, but I thought the performance was very good. Huge intensity, real purpose within the game, and hopefully they can continue that today.
Absolutely. Well, do remember that you can have your say on how you think Southampton will line up to take on Arsenal later on at the Emirates, and we will be bringing you the team news in around 10 minutes' time. But for now, Belvers, let's reflect back, looking back at last weekend, and let's talk about Armando Broja specifically. I know you spoke to him after the match. He, of course, bagged his 5th goal this season, and what a beauty it was as well. And what have you made of his impact in a Southampton shirt so far?
Very impressive. I'd not seen anything of him before he arrived at Southampton, but I'd heard a lot. And Chelsea fans rate him enormously highly. I know he impressed them in pre-season again last summer. The way he took this goal, though, the lovely first touch to put Shane Duffy on his backside, and then even the way he finished with the outside of his foot. I'm not sure there are too many other Southampton players who'd have taken the goal like this, really. So that was very impressive. All of his goals have been impressive, and he is a very confident, impressive young man. He has been likened to Diego Costa by Chelsea fans, which that's pretty high praise. Some have even been criticising the club, given Romelu Lukaku has been out injured. They feel he should be an option at Chelsea right now. I think he certainly will be in the seasons to come. But yeah, he's scored on all 3 of his Premier League starts at St Mary's, Leicester there, Leeds here, and they've all been very different goals as well, but all of them showing composure, a bit of intelligence. He's very direct, physical, powerful too. He's giving defenders huge problems, and yeah, I've really enjoyed watching him so far. He's got a bit of battering ram about him. He should have scored more than one, shouldn't he, against Brighton? Perhaps killed the game. He had another couple of good chances, but he's only 20 years old and he's already the club's top scorer across all competitions. So you can't ask a great deal more for a young player starting like that.
Yeah, certainly not. It's very impressive, isn't it? Dean, we did speak though about how deflated we were feeling after that late Brighton equaliser. It seemed to come after a catalogue of errors. Can you talk us through the mistakes that were made?
Yeah, I mean, it's just poor timing, really. Prowse, I don't need to tell him from this position to try and play the ball inside is not needed. That ball really should probably go in the channel and play for ground, really, and just make Brighton retreat. And then Romeu is just trying to make a tackle too. I think it's Mwepe, trying to take a strike on the edge of the box. So, just trying to prevent him getting that free strike at goal and gives a set place away. And then obviously we don't know is there some communication between James Ward-Prowse and Alex McCarthy, whether he wants to get on the line, whether he needs cover because of that injury that was found out after the game. We didn't know at the time. But there's some fortune to it, Steve. There really is. The free kick, the Wall does particularly well. The players come out and try to catch the players offside, but obviously with Prowse going back on the line, that doesn't help. And then, to be honest, it's a fantastic volley from Moga, I think it is, and it's a brilliant touch from Mope and to spin and finish. So there is some fortune and luck in terms of Brighton's point of view. But I think it just stems from, Prowse being fully aware of the stage of the game. I think it's 90 plus 5 minutes, I think, at the time when he has that ball and just to play it in the channel, tries to play inside, tries to do the right thing. There's some innocence to it, but just that experience to put it into the channel, turn Brighton around and get up the pitch is the start of it. And then the free kick given away. And then obviously Alex McCarthy being injured. So maybe wants some protection on the line. James Ward-Prowse goes back and then, can't get up in time to catch Mope offside. So there's some errors there. And I'm sure that the players have looked at it and discussed it and think, okay, if that happened again, what would we do different potentially? But I think there's some fortune as well. So you can't be too critical. But yeah, a disappointing way to finish because, like I touched on previously, I thought it was a really, really good performance and it just lacked the result. And if it had stayed 1-0, I think we would have been thinking of potentially one of the best performances this season.
Well, Ralph was quite forthright in his post-match interviews last weekend, but he was more measured when asked about Alex McCarthy in his press conference on Thursday.
I just wanted to know whether you've had any conversations with Alex McCarthy this week or whether there's been the kind of communication between you both, because it was obviously emotional after the game and just wondered what the kind of latest on that is.
It was also not perfect to do it after the game immediately. I had not every information I should have at that moment. Is always the issue after the game when you don't see everybody, they haven't spoken with everybody. I would do it different when I know more now, and I know now more what happened on the pitch. But it's not the time to speak about it anymore. It's gone. We have concentrated full on the next game. We took a few good things from the last game for settling us and for refocus us for the new challenge we are facing. And definitely everybody is in good shape in the moment, and it's a pity that Alex is out now. I think he did also against Brighton a very good job. He held us in the game 2-3 times in a fantastic way, and what happened in the end was not right from my side.
Now, Paul, we did talk about you being at the game last weekend. Ralph was obviously very critical of Alex McCarthy after it. He did seem to have calmed down a bit by Thursday, but what do you make of the situation at the moment there?
It was a big surprise, wasn't it? I mean, look, emotions were running high. It is often unfair to ask a manager to talk so quickly after such a big disappointment. A lot's been made of how many dropped points Southampton have had from winning positions in his 3 years in charge, 71 now. You know, that he's got to be scratching his head how he can change that, how he can put an end to that. They did seem to approach the second half a bit differently to normal. They were a little bit not quite holding on to what they had, but they perhaps weren't pushing quite so much for the second goal as they have done in the past, choosing their moments. And so, yeah, a bit of emotion spilled out. As Dean said, what we don't know, and what perhaps we can gauge from the comments now this week later on from Ralph, is that, you know, he wasn't perhaps in total grasp of all the facts of the conversation between, if there was a conversation between McCarthy and Ward-Prowse, whose idea was it to block that or to come and cover that far post? Was that just the skipper thinking, I know what a free kick taker will do here, he's going to aim for there, I can block that off? There were so many sort of what ifs that if they'd come off, then everyone would have been saying, oh, well played. If Ward-Prowse had headed that over the bar, if they had just cleared it, if Moda's volley into Maupay, well, it wasn't a volley into Maupay, was it? If his volley hadn't gone to Maupay, if Maupay hadn't controlled it so well, no one would have been complaining about what had happened. The really confusing thing is that Ralph had only used the 2 subs. And surely, if he hadn't spotted himself that McCarthy was in a state where he couldn't take the goal kicks himself, surely one of his assistants, one of his coaches would have said, do we need to make a change here, Gaffer? So there are lots of unknowns as we sit here now. I think you've got to give the manager a bit of credit for coming out and holding his hands up as he has done this week, saying, yeah, it wasn't perfect what I said. Perhaps shouldn't have criticised him, because as well, McCarthy had made some decent saves in that game as well to keep Brighton at bay until so deep into stoppage time. So it's an odd one, because you don't hear Ralph Hasenhüttl criticising individual players very often. So yeah, big surprise, a lot of mystery about it. I don't think we'll ever really hear all the facts about it as to, you know, who perhaps could have done better to sort that situation out on the day.
Well, Dean, let's talk about Oriol Romeu now then, because he picked up his 5th yellow card of the campaign, which means he does miss out today. Just how big a blow is that going to be for the team, given how influential he has been?
Unfortunately, Kenzie, I think it's a huge blow. Oriole's a fantastic player. He really is. You know, being obviously a previous midfield player myself, I can appreciate the things he does. He's really competitive. You can see from the highlights that he's a winner. He wins the ball back so successfully in that position. He understands the position well. I think what he does, he makes players around him better players as well, because he's so reliable and you can trust him. I think he's fantastic in possession of the ball as well. He's probably one of the best midfield players in the Premier League that does the basics so well. You know, he rarely gives the ball away. He keeps possession. He makes really good decisions on a regular basis. And I think he's just a fantastic player. And when he's in the team, Southampton are a better team. I really believe that. And he leads. I can't imagine he's the most vocal, but I think he leads by example in his performances. And I think that's really important. And the partnership he has with James Ward-Prowse, I think they really enjoy playing together. I think there's a real appreciation between those two. So he's going to be a miss, not only with the ball, but without the ball as well. And he does so much. And a lot of his work actually goes unnoticed, I think. You know, when you're actually watching the game live like we did last week, you can see a lot more than you actually can on the TV. And his positional sense is really good. He's instinctive to whether to go and intercept a pass, when to press. Is fantastic. So, yeah, he's going to be a miss, he is. But, you know, Diallo will come in and he's learning all the time. He's improving
Dean,
all the time.
I'm so sorry to interrupt
No
you. I
problem.
feel like I always do this to you, but we do have the team news now, so excuse my rudeness. We will come back to this. So sorry about that, but let's take a look at the Saints team while it's hot off the press, because there is quite a lot to take in from this one, isn't there? So the Saints team in full then is as follows. In goal, as we expected, making his Southampton debut is Willy Caballero. The back four, Tino Livramento, Jan Bednarek, Jack Stevens and Carl Walker-Peters. In the midfield, our captain James Ward-Prowse and Ibrahima Diallo comes in alongside him. Out wide, it's Nathan Redmond and Nathan Teller, and up top it's Armando Broja and Adam Armstrong. Let's take a look if the Southampton substitutes have come through to me. Yes, they have indeed. Harry Lewis, Lianco, Shane Long, Roman Perro, Musa Gineppo, Will Smallbone, Moy Elianusi and Theo Walcott. Belvers, let's come to you to just quickly discuss this. Pretty much as we expected, really. You said about the assist machine that was Nathan Redmond. You also said you'd like to see more of Teller. So really perfect starting 11 given the circumstances.
Yeah, although I am surprised to see Lianco drop to the bench. I thought it would be either Jack Stevens or Jan Bednarek coming in to partner him. But of course, these two know each other very well. They've partnered each other very successfully in the past, both coming back from injury. Bednarek has just missed a couple of games with a calf problem. Jack Stevens been out since mid-September. So I thought it would be Bednarek and Lianco, but we don't know how Lianco is really feeling his way into the Premier League. He's played a couple of games recently. Maybe there's just a little bit of concern over so many games in a short period of time. Maybe it is just the experience thing. If Bednarek and Stevens have shown that they're back to full fitness, they know each other very well, they're going to be up against some excellent forward players today at Arsenal. So maybe Ralph's just going with what he knows has worked in the past.
Absolutely. Dean, let's come back to you then after I so rudely interrupted you. Let's talk about that then, shall we? Because Jack Stevens was performing so well before he got injured. But, you know, as Belvis said there, it's unfortunate perhaps for Lianco.
Yeah, I suppose there's a small surprise there. I thought Lianco performed very well last week. I thought he was one of the better players and put in an excellent performance. But the manager, I'm sure, will have his reasons. If you look at Jack Stevens at the beginning of the season, was very, very good. I'm sure he's fully recovered now and raring to go. And one thing that Jack does very well, he reads the game very well. So, you know, when you're playing against Arsenal, when they're, you know, they look at clever passes, their movement's very, very good. And Jack's good at that. That's one of his strengths, to be able to intercept the ball and read the game. And him and Bednarek have played together a lot in previous seasons and previous games. So I'm sure there's a good understanding there. And the rest of the team is strong. You know, it's an attacking team, a positive team. I'm sure, as always, Southampton will take the game to Arsenal and try and impose their game on Arsenal. And I'm looking forward to that because there's a lot of pace, a lot of energy in this team. Hopefully they'll try and implement that on Arsenal and, like I say, try and take the game to them and win the game today.
Dean, I'm going to stick with you for a second here to get a player's perspective. The brand new addition to Southampton's lineup is Willy Caballero in goal. Now, we don't see emergency goalkeeper signings all that often. Was that something you ever experienced in your time as a
myself, Steve, during my career? It never happened to me. But if you look at himself, you look at him individually, he's been at Man City, he's been at Chelsea, he's got Premier League experience, so he's fully aware what the league is all about. And I think that would have been one of the reasons why Southampton brought him in. He'll have some respect from the players. He wouldn't have had the career he's had if he's not a good goalkeeper. If you look at him, you know, he's been very professional. He's been training, I think, with AFC Wimbledon, I heard. So he's been keeping himself fit and waiting for this opportunity. And it's interesting, when you spend some time out of the game as an older pro, you kind of appreciate what a professional footballer has been like and what a great life it is. So I'm sure he's raring to go and is very grateful of the opportunity to get back to the Premier League. So, look, they've not had that much time to work with him, so I'm sure the manager's given him a lot of things to think about, or potentially the way Southampton play, what he wants them to do with the ball, his positional sense in terms of his Southampton going to play a high line, will they drop deep? So him using his experience today in terms of communicating with the defenders will be really, really important. And also the rest of the team helping him out. But I'm sure it'll be fine. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, he's an experienced professional, and I'm sure he's looking forward to playing in the Premier League again.
Well, Belvers, I want to touch on something Dean's just said there. He wouldn't have had the career he's had if he wasn't a good goalkeeper. 446 career appearances, 86 for Manchester City and Chelsea combined. Is that a good thing about this emergency goalkeeper, that he is so experienced?
Is that a polite way of asking, is it good to have an old man in your team? In which case,
perhaps.
are you asking me that question rather than Dean?
Well, that was a tactful decision on our part. You are a veteran in the media game and highly respected for being so.
Okay, I'll let you off. That was very well dug out of that hole. Fantastic experience, because he's played at a World Cup with Argentina as well. He's shared dressing rooms with Lionel Messi, Eden Hazard, Vincent Kompany, Yaya Toure, some real giants of the game. And I think he's going to be the first 40-year-old to play in the Premier League for Southampton, beating Kelvin Davis's previous record. And he knows what his game is about, and he will have absolutely no qualms of ordering some defenders about and putting them into position. So all of that will work in the team's favour. And also the fact that he's been training, as Dean said, with AFC Wimbledon. I was up there a couple of weeks ago with their goalkeeping coach, Ashley Bays, to talk about Aaron Ramsdale, who will obviously be on the other end of the pitch today, because he spent, I think it was about a half-year loan at Wimbledon when they were in a real dogfight trying to stay in League One. And you look at the goalkeepers that have come through Wimbledon, they have got some really big names. They are very well respected in that field. Ashley Bays is a tremendous goalkeeping coach. And so I think the fact that he's been working there is a very, very good sign. If Arsenal were to get a penalty, I'd happily back Caballero to get near it, if not stop it. He's saved, I think it's 11 of 33 penalties in his career, but in his time in England, it's 6 out of 14. So nearly 50-50 chance of him denying a striker from the spot. I think it's a tremendous signing. I think I do feel for Harry Lewis, as I said earlier, but when you're looking to pick up Premier League points, there's no room for sentiment. There's someone there who's been there, done it. He's got wonderful cabinet of winners' medals. He's won the Champions League, Europa League, FA Cups with City and Chelsea. My one area of concern is that in the last 8 years, he's been with a Premier League team all those 8 years, apart from the last couple of months. He's only made, I think it's 34 Premier League appearances in those last 8 years. He has been someone who's been constantly on the bench and then has jumped in for a few games here and there. But of all the other options out there, I think it's a tremendous signing.
Well, Willy Caballero is in, but someone who misses out is Shay Adams. Dean, how frustrating will that be for Shay, considering he's been in quite excellent form recently?
Yeah, it'll be a disappointment for Shay. Like you say, he's been in very, very good form. I think it's, in all competitions, it's 4 goals in the last 7 games, I think it is. And the goals he scored, you think of his goal away at Watford, his goal against Norwich, his header against Leicester. He's in good form, Shay, and I think he's improving all the time. And I think he's relishing that kind of chance to be the number 1 striker. I think if Shay's fit, he plays. And I think the partnership that he's either had with Adam Armstrong, or he's had with Nathan Redmond at times, or he's had with Brozier has been really impressive, especially last week. I commented on it last week. I was excited to watch them two play together because they're both powerful, physically strong, can run in behind them, and technically both good. So Shay's been in good form this season. He has. So hopefully the injury isn't too bad. But I like Shay. I really do. I'm a big fan of him. He does a lot for the team. Creates things, gets assists, he's scoring goals, which strikers will always be judged on. And that's harsh sometimes, because I think Shay does so much for the team. And especially with the energy of last week, he really set the press off really, really well. You know, if he went and closed someone down with that aggression, someone would follow him behind. And I think that's really, really important. So they're the things that can go unnoticed. But yeah, exceptional player. And I think he's improving all the time and he will get better and better. So hopefully the injury is not too bad and he can get back. And if Shea can get in double figures this season, I think that will be good for him.
Yeah, most definitely. We're all sending him all our best wishes. Well, Paul, let's speak about today's opposition then, Arsenal. What do you think of them this season? It's been a bit of a mixed bag. How would you assess their strengths and weaknesses?
It's been very much a mixed bag. Just when you think they've turned a corner and they've really sort of they know what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve, and they're putting a run of results together, then suddenly they go and lose a few. They've lost 3 of their last 4 now. You know, one of them was against Liverpool. Everyone loses to Liverpool. Manchester United had just brought in Ralph Rangnick as well. But then Everton on Monday, that was a big surprise. And just like Southampton, they've been dropping points from winning positions. Their last 2 games, they took the lead and then ended up losing. And I think there are a lot of similarities with Southampton, really. There's only, I think it's 7 points between the 2 teams in the table. But of course, if Southampton had held on against Leicester and Brighton, that would just be down to 2. A big potential help for Saints today is that Emile Smith-Rowe is carrying an injury and isn't in the starting 11. He's only on the bench. And you look at the win percentages between when he's in the Arsenal team and without, they almost win twice as many games when he's in the team as when he's not. So they've got such amazing talent throughout their squad. And yet this youngster being in the team is so absolutely key. Now, a lot of their players are showing some good form. Obviously, you've got Odegaard who comes in when Smith-Rowe perhaps isn't there, and he's got an awful lot of talent in his boots. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang isn't scoring goals at the moment. He's the captain. He's often on the bench. There are a lot of things that just seem a little bit confusing about Arsenal at the moment. Why they can't click into gear more often. Why some of their real stars aren't producing the goods more regularly. Some of their, they've got players on enormous salaries, players who've cost an awful lot of money in the transfer market, and yet they're very rarely in the headlines for stellar performances. They have won their last 3 out of 3 at home, I think. They are a better team at home this season than they were last season, and of course Southampton never win away at Arsenal in the Premier League. You have to go back 30 odd years, don't you? 26 league games, I think. But perhaps today is the day. And I've been watching a lot of cricket at the moment, and there's all this talk of how you don't want players who are scarred by previous disasters down under in the Ashes and things. Perhaps you don't want players who are scarred by previous disappointments at the Emirates. There are only 3 players in the Southampton starting 11 today who played in last season's fixture. Although, of course, last season's fixture actually went quite well, a 0-0, 1-1 draw, wasn't it? And Saints could have won that. But the fact that they went there last year could have won it. I think Nathan Redmond hit the bar after Theo Walcott had put them ahead. I don't think they go there with any great reasons to be fearful today, particularly when you think they lost at Everton on Monday. They've dropped points against the likes of Palace earlier in the season. Arsenal are very, very beatable at the moment, I think.
Well, hopefully that stat does change today. Dean, Southampton come into this match off the back of 2 draws, while Arsenal off of 2 defeats. So neither side are going to be particularly happy with their run of recent results. What kind of impact do you think that's going to have on the game?
Not too much, Steve. I think if you look at Southampton and the difference between the last couple of results of Southampton and Arsenal, Southampton's performances have been good. I think Arsenal's performances have been below par of what they would expect. Southampton obviously 2 draws and Arsenal 2 defeats. But like Belvers has mentioned there, Arsenal are strong at home. I think they haven't lost since they got beaten by Man City. So they're strong at home. They've got some good players, but they are vulnerable. They do concede goals, even though they're better defensively than they were. You have to give Arsenal some credit because of the way they've recovered from such a poor start to the season and the criticism that they've had. They've shown some real grit and strong mentality to get themselves, I think they're 7th in the league now. So they're probably about where you would expect Arsenal to be with the squad that they've got. But with Southampton, Southampton never play with any fear. You can question sometimes maybe a decision-making or a little bit of inexperience. But Southampton are brave when they go to any any team, whether that's home or away. So Southampton today can cause Arsenal some problems. They really can. So the last few games, I don't think will impact on this game too much. There will be an expectation for Arsenal to win, especially from the home fans with Southampton coming to the Emirates. And I think that could play potentially in Southampton's favour today.
Well, before we come to you both for your score predictions, let's head to social media to see what the fans are saying watching along at home. We've got this comment here from Ryan Brown who says, come on Southampton. Stefan is supporting the Saints all the way from Switzerland. He says, come on you Reds. Adam Hardy-Smith is also with us. Hello to you. He says, yeah, I'm excited to see Willie on the pitch. He's class. Look at you giggling away there. Never thought I'd say that on Saints Live. Vishnu has said, I'm happy with Jack Stevens being back. Louise Cox, hello, good afternoon. She says, come on, Saints. Dean Coates is also with us. He says, let's hope for a good result today, boys. And Graham Kopp is going for a 2-1 Saints win. Belvis, let's come to you then for your thoughts ahead of this one. How do you see this one going? You said Saints have no reason to be fearful going into this, and Arsenal are very beatable. So what's your score prediction?
So to not quite completely contradict myself, Southampton, of course, don't score many goals in the Premier League at the moment. Arsenal don't concede many at home, so I think it's going to be tight. But I think the key is going to be Arsenal tend to win games when they come out the traps very, very strongly, very early. They blew away Tottenham, Leicester earlier in the season at home. I think if Saints can weather that early storm, Brozier can then cause their back line a few problems and perhaps nick a 1-0. I'm going for 1-0 away win.
1-0 away. Okay. Well, Dean, we spoke before about Saints needing to start killing games off when they do take a lead. So what kind of score prediction are you going for today?
Well, like Bales has just said, I think it's going to be tight. I think it's about Southampton potentially frustrating Arsenal. I don't think they score many goals in the second half of their games. They're quick starters. So if Southampton can have some spells of possession in the first half, frustrate Arsenal and stay within the game and finish strongly with the energy and the pace they've got in the team, then I think they can cause Arsenal some problems today. But I don't think there'll be a lot of goals. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw today.
Okay. Well, Dean Belvis, a pleasure to have you with us as always. Thanks for your fantastic input, and thanks to the fans for sending in those comments as well as always. Well, as we've discussed, both sides will be hoping to get back to winning ways at the Emirates this afternoon, so it is set to be a good contest in the capital, Steve.
It is indeed, Kenzie, but make sure you do join us all after the game as we discuss the major talking points on the final whistle. Enjoy the match, and we'll see you then.
Bye for now.